We have been working on enhancements of the laptop store project from the YByte Python curriculum available at www.ybyte.in. In fact, we have made some pretty interesting changes to the projects. For example, a user can now specify multiple values as preference or a range of values and so on. Now let's turn our focus on the final results that are displayed to the user. Basically, once the laptops that meet the requirement are selected, they end up in this list of dictionaries called selected in our project, and they are displayed one by one. But then we can make it more readable, by sorting this list on the basis of certain key that the user wants. For example, the user might say that, look, please put the laptops in an alphabetical order of brand names, or you might say, look, please put them in a decreasing order of RAM, or perhaps a decreasing order of price. Several possibilities come up. Now, this is quite interesting because basically we have this list of dictionaries and we can sort it in multiple ways, because remember the dictionary has many, many keys. So, depending on the key that is needed, we can sort it in different ways. And the function that we are going to use for this purpose is this pretty versatile function called sorted. Now, let's first look at the the structure of this function, and then with examples the usage will become very clear, and that's what we always do. There's this link you can follow as well for some examples, but basically the idea is that I'm going to give in an iterable, for example, a list, dictionary, or a tuple. In my case, it's a list. However, every item of that list is a dictionary. So it's basically a list of dictionaries. Now, key here is a function to decide the order. Now, mind you, this key is not the same as a dictionary key. In fact, this is like a function. So, we can write our own function, or as we'll see, a more compact version comes in when we use the lambda statement. That's what we are going to do. And finally, we have this choice to, let's say, put the selection in an ascending order or a descending order. Basically, if we leave this alone, then it's ascending order. But if I set this to true, then the whole order becomes descending. Like I said, the best way to understand this function and the value that it brings in is to apply this to an activity, and we are going to do exactly that. So I come in here to my code. Notice I'm at a point where the query has been run and this list selected has been created. Basically it tells me, look, how many laptops met your preference. Now I can ask a question that, look, would you like the results to be sorted in a certain way? So let's just say, I just say sorted, let's say sorting key, and I ask a question input, let's say, results to be sorted by, and I can just put, say, none for no sorting. So in case the player says, okay, no, I don't want it to be sorted, then there's an option. Otherwise, just like previously we asked which preferences you have, what categories you have the preferences in, brand, price, and so on. The player can tell us which key would they like to be sorted on. Then I can just put a, let's say, one more variable here, sorting, say, rev is equal to, say, input. So once again, I take a string input and I just ask, do you want the results to be reversed? So I just put, for example, enter, say, D for descending order. So in case the player chooses not to put D, then it's by default an ascending order. Now, having said this, let's start with the situation where, let's say, our user intends to sort the results in an alphabetical order of the brands. So I can go and put a statement, look, if my, let's say, sorting key is equal to brand, so for example, WDEL, WHP, and so on and so forth. Now remember, I can use a sorted statement. So what I'll do is that I'll just create, let's say, selected once again, using the sorted statement. So I'll just say sorted selected. Now this looks a little strange basically, but what it means is that, look, a new list will get created and that list will be basically again be named as sorted. So that's what is going on, but we understand what's happening. It just keeps the code quite concise, right? Now remember, the whole idea is iterable, a key which is a function, and then finally this reverse. Now in this case, I want to be sorting this laptop out, sorting this list of dictionaries basis the key brand. Now this key, when I say, is the dictionary key in the laptop. However, the key that the sorted function wants is a function. Now we don't want to write a function. We can use the lambda statement. So I'm just going to say, well, key is equal to lambda. Remember, lambda are these anonymous single line statements, which help us do these things quite efficiently. So I'm saying, look, let's create a lambda where x is basically mapped to x, say, sorting key. Now, what this basically means is that, look, I am going to, I have this list of dictionaries. Every item of that goes through this lambda, and I end up with a value of, let's say, X sorting key, which means X brand, which means the brand for each of those, dictionaries which are in the list. And basis that I can sort. Now remember, by default, it's ascending order, but I can set this reverse equals to, and in case my sorting rev is equal to d, so then reverse becomes true. So I just put the sorting rev equals to, say, d. Now notice this is a double equal to, because I'm checking for equality here, and this statement will return me a true or a false. Now let's first see this working. It's good to always see code working and then move forward. I think this is, let's say I want to choose, say, for brand, and I want to put, let's say, W Dell, and W, say, WACER. Now, so that's my query. Turns out 17 laptops met my preference. Let's say I want the result to be sorted also by brand. So I mentioned brand. Entity for descending, I put A. You notice I first get all the laptops which are WACER, because WACER is clearly in ascending, like comes before WDEL, and this looks pretty cool. It's kind of a little bit easier also to read. We can enhance this further, as you'll see later. But this itself is a great move forward. Now, likewise, I could have chosen to, let's say, reverse. We'll do this in another example. Let's, however, move forward. Let's say my player wants to, let's say, sort this out by price. So in fact, this is going to be quite similar. I'm just going to copy this thing, because clearly the code is going to be similar. However, we have to be careful. I will first put this as an elif, because look, if sorting use brand, well, do that. If sorting key, on the other hand, let's say, was price, so the player perhaps wanted to put this as a price, could be ascending order, descending order. Now remember price is I mean, the value for the price is a string. For example, INR space 20,000 and so on. So I am going to be a little bit more, let's say, elaborate in my, let's say, this lambda statement. Basically, what I want is that from every dictionary out there, I want to get the numerical value of the price, something like what we had done earlier. So I'm going to convert this to float. And what do I want to get? Well, I want to get to that key, X, that key. Remember, the value of the price, which is a string. I will split this into two by using split. That means the numerical value goes aside, and the let's say the currency value goes aside and numerical value comes in. And remember, previously we've seen this before. I'm going to put a 1 here. I need a bracket to close, because remember, there's a float that I must convert it to float, so that the conversion can go on. Actually, for price, it may not matter, but in general, this is what I would like to do. And now with this, we can test this again. Let's just say I have, so let's say again, I say, well, please tell me for brands, let's say W Dell and W Acer. 16 laptops met my preference. Let's say I want to sort by price, and this time around, let me put D as an option. So I am expecting price to be in the reverse order. Notice now this order is no longer maintained. It's all mixed up, but we have sorted this in a reverse descending order of price. Pretty cool, right? It's really cool. So I know immediately, okay, look, this laptop is very expensive. I can probably look at depending on my budget, I could probably go with the higher one, or maybe I say, okay, no, let me just look at those which are below, for example, 25,000, or maybe something like that, right? Very quickly, I can zoom into these, right? So very helpful that way. Yeah? Let's move forward. Let's say I want to sort for any other metric. Now, this is quite interesting. My first thought would be to say, look, let me just put else. The reason price is different is because remember, price is INR space, let's say, to 20,000, 40,000, whatever. But for other metrics like RAM, screen size, it's always the number, space, then the units. So, the only thing that changes is a 0 or 1 here. However, I will not put an else over here, and we'll talk about this in a moment. In fact, I'll again go and put, an elif statement. And this time round, I will put this elif statement as sorting, say, sorting key is not equal to, say, none. Now, why do I need to do this? Remember, my user could have chosen not to do any sorting, in which case, they're going to give me a none, for example, over here. And in that case, I don't want to be doing a sorting. If I put an else over here, in fact, I'll end up doing a sorting. I'll end up with a key error because there's no key like none. So I just put explicit condition. Look, I will put a condition here that look, if the sorting key is not equal to none, then everything pretty much remains the same, except that I will now have to, let's say, basically use a zero over here. Now, one thing that I'm not handling is what happens if, let's say, the player chooses to sort with model. Not really, very, let's say, very useful, but, you can definitely put that condition. Right now, that's going to cause a problem because we'll end up in this condition, and, some funny things will happen. Basically, we will not be able to convert this into float. So that will give an error. But I'm leaving that as a, let's say, as a further enhancement to this, in case the user wants to sort a model. But let's say, let's see this in action now. This looks okay to me. So let's say I exit this. Now, again, let's say I say, well, tell me, say my brand, and say I choose W Dell and WHP. So 10 laptops have been my preference. Let's say I want to sort this by RAM and I want to make it ascending order. You notice it's going by ascending order of RAM. Now they are mixed up in brands, but it's going with ascending order of, let's say, RAM, right? Of course, now let's take one more example. Let's say again, I say, so I'll sort by brand. Let's say Lenovo, and say WASUS. Let's just see these two. And, I go with this 7 laptops with my preference. Let's say I would sort by screen size and in a descending order. So when I do this, notice I've got 17-inch models coming first, then 14-inch, and then 12-inch. Pretty cool, depending on the user's choice, a lot of things can be done. Now, I hope you found this interesting. This is really pretty nice usage of the sorted statement, makes things very, very clear. Think through it, why we are using lambda, why we are doing all this, let's say, all this, let's say, manipulation, but see the value of lambda here, a single expression able to do so much, let's say, functionality. Very, very interesting. In general, building activities the way we are doing makes concepts much, much more interesting and much, much more alive. As you just saw, look at our website www.ybyte.in because we learn Python programming through such fun activities. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye bye.